The Midwest Railway Historical Foundation presents What Happened to the 4070? The 4070. You may have been on board a car pulled by the 4070, a marquee attraction that brought many visitors to the then newly created Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Working, pulling, and talking, the sounds of the drivers, the power of each stroke, her bell ringing through the din. It's live steam. The 4070 has traveled through time to arrive at our doorstep. But what happened to the 4070? Built to United States Railroad Administration specifications, this 1918 light Mikado-class locomotive generates 3,000 horsepower. A 282 wheel arrangement featuring 63-inch drive wheels carries the 170-ton locomotive. Over the next 40 years, the 4070 actively served the Grand Trunk Western Railroad. With its compact wheelbase, this engine had the ability to navigate the many tight branch line curves associated with freight service. She would also travel at speeds of over 60 miles per hour, reliably supplying point-to-point passenger commuter service. Throughout its active service, the Grand Trunk Western diligently maintained the 4070 as a vibrant, positive asset. She finished her last commercial run for the Grand Trunk Western on March 29, 1960, in Durand, Michigan. This milestone earned the 4070 the distinction of being one of the last steam locomotives in commercial service. Time moves on, and in June of 1961, Mr. Lou Keller traded a recently purchased engine in exchange for the 4070, an auspicious event as the 4070 was sitting in a scrap line headed for dismantling. The Midwest Railway Historical Foundation Midwest Chapter leased the 4070 from Mr. Keller in 1966. In 1968, the 4070 pulled a special 50th anniversary excursion from Chicago to South Bend and back. Successfully completing its run, the 4070 returned to Cleveland and began a new service life, that of providing steam-powered rail journeys throughout the Great Lakes region, including regular service between Cleveland and Akron. It was in the early 70s that the Midwest Railway Historical Foundation purchased the 4070. This event coincided with the unfolding of the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. With the Midwest Railroad Historical Foundation's help, the Park Service was able to obtain and keep in place the former B&O Cleveland Terminal and Valley subdivision to Akron. Today, it is known as the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. The 4070 became the perfect symbol of active preservation and introduced tens of thousands of visitors to this new nature preserve. And it worked. And the 4070 worked, as did the volunteers. In the fall of 1983, the 4070 and the Foundation's fine 1924 Pullman, the Mount Baxter, became the featured motive force and rolling stock in the movie The Natural. From 1975 through 1990, they worked. Staff and locomotive and cars. 15 years of uninterrupted active service and a supporting role in a major motion picture for a vehicle that was now 72 years old. An engine that hasn't had major maintenance work since 1957. And what happened to the 4070? With steam roaring past worn piston rings that were suspended in sleeves honed to a fraction of their original dimensions, it was decided to remove her from active service and begin the appropriate and necessary processes to return her to A1 condition. Presently, she is undergoing full service maintenance, beginning with an assessment of potential and real problems. Considered normal maintenance in the primary days of steam, the craftsmanship and materials are still available today to restore the 4070 to maximum performance. This maintenance window presents the opportunity to do more than return to active service a locomotive constructed with 1918 technology. Here now is the perfect time to really modernize without compromising authenticity or changing external appearances, a vibrant symbol of America's glorious past. In Cleveland, protected in Stall 4 at the old B&O Roundhouse on West 3rd Street, she awaits this restoration. Doug Fink, an LTV Steel Railroads Equipment Maintenance Supervisor and Midwest Railway Historical Foundation board member, shares the plan for restoration.
Total dismantle. You do a locomotive restoration is take it down right to the frame. I mean, to where there's nothing left on top or bolted to each other. No component left together. You start there and you go. You replace every corroded part, every broken part, anything that's cracked. We have modern technology now where we can ultrasound and test bolts to make sure there's no flaws in them.
The foundation believes that restoration of this engine should be centered on the conversion from friction to roller bearings on the main drive wheels.
It would make the locomotive a lot more dependable, a lot more reliable. We'd have a whole lot less wear on the bearing surfaces, which would reduce the wear and extend the life of the locomotive. If you don't spend the money to convert it to roller bearings, you're probably going to have the same amount of money in meticulous machining to bring the boxes, the journal boxes for the driving wheels back into spec, to cast new crown brass for them, to machine those, to press them in, and to bring all this stuff back into spec. So anytime that you can upgrade something to make it more trouble-free and preserve its longevity, yeah, it's better to go with the roller bearings.
Many concerns affecting total restoration and increased longevity are centered on the drive system of the locomotive. This includes the drive wheels, the piston sleeves, and the frame itself.
The driving wheels all need to be taken out from under the locomotive, need to be sent to a machine shop with the capability of turning a 63-inch diameter piece. They need to be brought back into specification. And there are standards for those contours on the wheels. They all have to be within a certain tolerance. They all have to be the same. And the sleeves need to be cast and the outside diameter machined and then pressed in on site here. And then they need to be line bored, to the frame to make sure everything's in alignment with the crossheads. The frame needs to be trimmed. It needs to be cleaned up. In some cases, we need to have field line borers come in and set up on the frame to rebore the holes, welding the old ones up. The frame does need to be trimmed to make sure that it's straight.
All this work will help propel the 4070 into the next century. But what will stop it?
We'd like to upgrade the brake system on it to a more modern brake system where if you would have a problem with the brakes, instead of having to carry a bunch of antique parts with you, you might be able to, get something locally at a railroad shop to repair it.
This modernizing of the brake system reveals the long-range vision the foundation has for the 4070. Another system that competes with the drive units for restoration is the boiler system. Paul Trevisano is a tool and die maker and former boiler service technician for a large Akron-based boiler manufacturer. His field experience covers both fossil and nuclear power plants. Paul speaks on the quality of the original construction of the boiler.
I look inside and compared to a boiler of much higher pressures as this thing being super well built.
The boiler contains 216 2-inch flues and 40 5-inch flues, each of which is 19 feet long. Doug Fink rates the present condition of the boiler.
At this point in time, when we get this thing back under an FRA certification, we're probably going to have to pull all the boiler tubes and take the interior and clean it. And it's already been coated, so we know it's in pretty good condition, but it'll have to be inspected.
This locomotive was designed to be rebuilt time and time again. A practical example of this is found in the smoke box. Attached at the nose of the engine, the smoke box is an airtight structure that creates a vacuum or draft to pull air and heat from the firebox through the boiler. Suspended in the hot air stream are small particles of coal and other naturally occurring debris. By design, these particles impact and sandblast wear plates inside the smoke box before exiting through the stack. Here is an original smoke box wear plate that has been removed, sitting next to the new one. It is this forethought in design that makes the 4070 always repairable. When in operation, sometimes parts fail. The Midwest Railway Historical Foundation has solved the replacement parts problem by tapping its membership's database of skills and services. As a tool and die maker, Paul Trevisano's name again pops to the head of the list. He explains the recreation of a union link, a critical part of the drive system.
So what I had done is I ordered some solid pieces of 4140 steel, and out of this I made a model. I measured this up, made a template, and I duplicated everything exactly the way you see it, both from the side view and on the end view. Dimension-wise, center to center, the tapered fits, bushings, lubrication, everything is exactly the way it is. And this is one of the skills we possess here. We have the ability to take the oddball, one-of-a-kind, unreplaceable pieces and make them.
Another important part of a locomotive is its portable coal and water supply house, the tender. Not an original USRA tender, this tender was installed at the 4070's last shopping in 1957. The Foundation has obtained an original USRA tender whose present condition is beyond restoration. However, it is still of great value. When dismantled, its parts will become patterns to fabricate new parts used to construct a just-like-new USRA tender. Meanwhile, Paul Trevisano will show us the work required for the restoration of the very serviceable S3C tender.
Now what we have to do here is because of the years and the time it's been outside, it's going to require to have new header sections, new rear tongue, doors re-straightened, new floor pan put in, and basically all the baffles on the inside, because water does do its damage over a period of time. This is mainly hands-on labor. You give us the material, we got the torches, and we got the welders. And this is all going to be handcrafted by us.
Time. Railroads brought to America standardized time zones. An answer to how long a restoration project the 4070 and her tender present comes from Doug.
A good comprehensive program, good business plan to put this thing together and make it work. It could be done in 18 months to 2 years.
Once again, the resourceful Midwest Railway Historical Foundation searches through its membership and finds the management leadership to guide this restoration project.
Our directors come from a broad background. We have a retiree from General Electric who gives us excellent managerial skills and is also very competent technically speaking. We have a supervisor for the LTV Steel Company, and he's basically supervisor of maintenance and repair. Myself, I am a middle management person for the Timping Company, and I also have a law degree, and so I try to keep us in the straight and narrow legally speaking and accounting and financial wise. The whole group blends together and becomes a well-managed management team. We have in place the ability to manage our operations, we have the ability to manage our maintenance and repair functions, and the overall administrative needs to get this thing running as a business.
The Foundation's goals for future uses of the 4070 include mutual assistance with other civic and nonprofit organizations throughout the region.
Our dedicated purpose blends nicely with other community service projects. If you want to get involved with getting people to a point, and you want to do it in a fun and a historical and an educated and informative fashion, nothing beats a steam locomotive. If you've ever ridden a steam train, you know that you are the center of attention wherever you go. You also know that it is a lot of fun. And you take that experience and you give it a destination. The destination could be the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame up in Cleveland. It could be the Inventors Hall of Fame. It could be a county fair. It could be a special excursion for a non-for-profit that's looking to acquire funds and they don't have any other means of funding. And we can also be an excellent draw for a visitors bureau or for community development.
When it comes to the actual completion of the machining and other skills required to turn wheels and bore cylinders, Doug Fink offers these solutions.
Cleveland's really blessed. The capabilities are here in Cleveland to do everything that needs to be done to bring this locomotive up to standards. With the steel mills here, heavy machining, heavy parts, there's excellent facilities here to do this work.
After all the restoration work is completed, how long